Have you ever cried in public?
In public? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm a crybaby.
How are you?
Bespoke Minds podcast, a place where we actively discuss mental health, self-care and healing, share stories to enhance our insight in an interactive way.
Hello and welcome to Bespoke Minds podcast. I'm your host, Cornelia CK, and in today's episode, we have a very special guest. We have a wonderful, beautiful, intelligent CEO and mental health guru, Vanessa.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you for having me.
No, you're most welcome. It's an honor for you to be here.
Thank
And
you.
so we're going to get into in terms of what this amazing mental health guru that is sitting here humbly, sitting here graciously, what she does. But it's such a blessing to have you here. And if you can just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do for those who don't know. I'm sure there's many people who know you, but for those who don't know.
Oh gosh. Oh well, thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Honestly, you're being too kind to me. Too kind. So my name's Vanessa. I am a qualified cognitive behavioral therapist, and I'm also a high performance coach. I run a company, as you mentioned, called Y.O.U. Wellbeing. So it's a social enterprise which is focused on essentially empowering people with mental health education. So I believe that mental health education is fundamental in order for people to actually live their life the way that they want to. So learning about the practical tools, the techniques, having community around you as well, having that support system. I think all of those things are important. And that feeds into every aspect of what I do. So essentially I'm a believer of life, and I'm a believer of being able to actually live life the way that you want to. So I always say that we have the ability to create the life that we want to live. And so that shows up in my profession as a therapist, my business, Y.O.U. Wellbeing, and also in my personal life as well. Everyone who knows me personally knows that I'm all about well-being, all about personal growth, all about development.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you do definitely practice what you preach as well. And just to touch on that, like you do give life into the community on various levels, and you've worked with many partners. I've got a list of some, but there's not even enough time or even enough to tuck into this. But in terms of like what you've advised, you've worked with many people. For those who don't know, she's got Inside and Out Wellbeing UK. They have many partners and have worked with amazing people such as Sky, Virgin, lots of universities, including Leicester, Warwick, Middlesex, Peabody, Every Mind Matters, and they've even stretched into probation and prison as well. So there's a range of things that you do. So, and I know that you also tailor some community activities you also tailor some community activities as well. Workshop.
So essentially, as we're a social enterprise, the work that we do is based on being able to, like I mentioned, support people with their mental health and well-being. So for every booking that we get from a corporate organization, to provide them with well-being training. So some of those companies that you mentioned are companies that we've worked with, to do mental health training, to do mental health awareness, to provide well-being support for their staff. And for every booking that we get that's corporate based, we will then fund a free session in the community for people who need the support essentially.
That's amazing. So you also give back too. That's really good, because I know a lot of businesses and stuff, the fact that you have, the people in the community at the center, and you give back as well, which is amazing.
That's why we started. Essentially, we started because we recognized that there was a need. So just a bit of a backstory behind that. After I finished university, I wanted to raise awareness about mental health due to lots of different things that had happened in my life prior to that. We'll probably go into that another time, or we can go into it today if there's time.
Yeah, there is.
But essentially, I wanted to raise awareness. I felt like there's a fire in my stomach. I need to do something about this. So I decided, you know what? I like organizing events. I love events. I like putting things together. So let me do something. So I invited all the creatives that I know. I invited all the mental health professionals that I know to come together. Let's do this event. did the event, and then we had 180 people turn up.
Yeah.
At the time, I was 21.
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking, oh, wow, okay, this is, we're onto something
Yeah.
here. And then after the event, people were asking me, Vanessa, when's the next one? When's the next one? When's the next one? I'm like, we're meant to do more? Okay, let's do it. So then that turned into event after event after event. We did music and mental health events. We did theatre productions based on mental health. We did dance and mental health. So essentially, it was just an events-based business.
Okay.
And then COVID hit.
Oh, dear.
COVID hit. And at that point, I was thinking, this is it. No more Inside Out. I need to find something else to do. But then, lo and behold, you know how God works?
Of course.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. We had to pivot.
Okay.
And then we also had to think about how to re-strategize. And also had to think about sustainability. Because if we're going to move online, what does that look like? If we're going to change the business around, what does that look like? So then that's when we introduced that model of working with corporates.
Okay.
So that we can actually get the funds, but we can also provide value to companies, to organizations who actually do need the support.
Yeah.
And then in turn, they're also meeting their corporate social responsibility through the work that we then do further to be able to, you know, do the community workshops and events and things like that. So yeah, shout out to our partners, the corporates that have trusted us to work with them, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be surviving as a organization.
Okay.
Even the award ceremony,
Yeah.
that was basically funded because of the bookings that we had.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, and honestly, I've attended a few of your events, and they are amazing, and your team is phenomenal as well.
I love my
As
team.
we advise.
Big up my team.
Yeah,
Love
no,
you
big up your
guys.
team. You guys are amazing. But what we're going to do before we dive deeper into the conversation, we're going to play a game which is called Break the Ice.
Okay.
Well, we've already dived into our conversation already.
Okay, let's break the
but
ice.
it's an icebreaker game. So I'm going to ask you two opposite words, and you state your preference and tell me why.
Okay.
Cool.
Got you.
So, the first one is: do you prefer to give or do you prefer to receive?
Give.
You're a giver.
I'm a giver.
Yeah.
I'm a giver. I think in all aspects of my life, I'm a giver. I used to struggle with receiving.
Okay.
But now I think I've got a good balance. And that's why I need to be around people who are also givers. Yeah, I think for me, that's really important, because I think I've got a big heart.
Yeah, you do.
I love to appreciate people. I love to celebrate people. And so as a result of that, I need to be around the right people, because if I'm not around the right people, it means that, you know, people who don't recognize that might try and take the mic.
Take advantage of that.
Take advantage of that. So for me, I think, I'm a giver, but I'm also around givers as well.
So did you previously find it difficult to say no? Or have you always been a yes person?
Well, have I found it difficult to say? I have found it difficult to say no. Yeah, I definitely have found it difficult to say no. I would even say that I've recovered from people pleasing. Yeah. It's taken me some time, but I've definitely recovered from people pleasing.
Yeah.
And I think in that it comes with discernment. So being able to actually distinguish, okay, if people are coming into my life, are these people who are adding value to my life? Are these people who I can also add value to their life too?
And are they sincere too?
Exactly. Are they real? Yeah, I think that part is important, because there's a lot of people that may not be as real as they come across.
100%. And I'm guessing as well with your status as well, and as you're elevating and progressing and tapping into more spaces and, you know, doing the best that you want to do, that can also come with some adversities too.
110%. Yeah.
And you keep a smile on your face, which is great. And shining, looking good. Yeah, no, we need to celebrate these things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely, that for sure, because I think at the beginning stages, there'll probably be people around you who do want to support. But then there's also people around you, whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad, who don't like what you're doing, or don't like that maybe you're a stage ahead of them, or don't like that you're elevating in particular ways. And that's okay. I think I've definitely come to terms with the idea that you're not going to be liked by everyone. even sometimes for no reason. And that is okay. That's life.
Yeah.
It's life.
Yeah.
I used to think that, you know, if someone doesn't like me, that means I've done something wrong. But people are walking around projecting.
There's so many people
You know what
projecting.
I mean?
So many people.
Sometimes it's the stuff that people are going through
Yeah.
that makes them behave towards you in a particular way, not necessarily what I have personally done towards them. So when you come to terms with the idea that not everyone's going to be for you, and that's okay.
And it's okay,
Your tribe is going to come to you.
100%. And they'll stick with you.
And they will stick with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you'll know them by their fruits.
You will know them
You
by
will
their
know
fruits.
them by their fruits.
Exactly.
Like it says,
exactly.
yeah.
And I believe that, you know, in divine timing, you attract the people that you need. You attract your destiny helpers. And so if you're someone that's really sincere about what you're doing, the right people will come to you at the right time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just to touch on the fact that you're a giver, you are an absolute giver. Because I remember the first time I met you was in an event, I think it was before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
It was an NHS one.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember that's when I wanted to start re-switching mine. I had big plans. I wanted to be an amp in all of this. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And from then I started Re-Switch Your Mind, which was like a platform, a mental health daily motivational platform that I was starting. And you were so given and so selfless because you helped me with registering in Company House and everything. And I was messaging you. I was like, what am I doing? So from then I was like, no, you are amazing. And I saw that given spirit that you have as well. So I've personally had the ability to experience that firsthand as well.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I think at the end of the day, the reason why like people tend to ask me, oh, Vanessa, why are you so nice to people and things like that? I think life is so fickle.
Yeah.
As you know, anything can happen at any time.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a saying, I want to die empty, in the sense where if I was to go tomorrow, God forbid, if that was to happen, I want to know that I've done everything I can to be able to look after not just myself, but also the people around me. Because life is too short.
It's too
if
short.
I was to go tomorrow, then what?
Exactly. And you can see it's all about creating a legacy as well from what you're describing.
Yeah.
It's so, so important. So, I commend you for that. 100%.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
So, I appreciate you more. So, do you prefer, I'm not sure if you're much of a drinker, but do you prefer beer or wine?
Oh, wine.
Wine.
Yeah.
What's your favourite wine?
What's my favourite wine? I love a cheeky rosé.
Okay.
Yeah, I love a cheeky rosé. I'm not much of a drinker. But I just know that beer doesn't taste nice.
Yeah, it's bitter, isn't it?
Very bitter.
Yeah, I prefer the sweet stuff.
I've got a sweet tooth. Yeah.
Likewise, me too.
So like the summer fruits kind of vibe, please. Yeah. A little bit of put a little bit of ice in it too.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
nice little
summer
freeze,
fruits.
summer fruits. Is it Echo Falls and that kind of thing? Nice and cold, yeah. No, I'm the same, but I drink occasionally. I'm a bit of an occasional drinker, but red wine.
Red wine.
There is a French wine that I love. I'm obsessed with it. It's called Muscador. Yeah. So
is it sweet?
It's very sweet.
Okay.
But it's also very
okay.
So we'll get you
Sweet
tipsy. So if you do go to like most Congolese people they have it.
What's it called?
Muscador.
Muscador.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce right?
You
Muscador.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I don't know what it means exactly. It's just the name of the wine.
Okay.
But that's my favorite one. Don't know why, but I love that because I think it's very sweet.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a silent creeper. It will knock you out in seconds. But so the next time, because I'm due to go to France, the next time I go to France, I'll get you a bottle.
Oh yes, please.
Yes, I'm always promoting it. Not promoting it, but I usually stack up whenever I go. I'm like,
to promote
I don't like to promote, drinking and whatnot. But in terms of, I have a little stash that I'll have when I come back and whatnot. So cool.
I love that.
Do you prefer Instagram or TikTok?
Oh,
which one do you use more?
I think I definitely use Instagram more, but I want to use TikTok more. Yeah, I feel like you have to strategize. I guess this is more business anyway, and we're sort of moving more towards a TikTok generation where growth is happening more on TikTok. So if you want to expand your community, I feel TikTok is the way forward. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I found that with my experience, I've got mixed views with regards to TikTok and Instagram. But I found that people on TikTok are more friendlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just like, oh, hey, hi, like strangers, people you won't know. There's
Okay.
good opportunity for networking. Having said
Yeah.
that as well, and when I did my Reswitch Your Mind, Instagram was very active as well, and I had lots of people. So I think it's just depending on what you're doing, how you position yourself,
Yeah.
and the type of people that attract.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Instagram as well, we've pumped a lot into Instagram in terms of resources and time and things like that. So it's comfortable for us.
Yeah.
Our community are on Instagram. But the only thing about Instagram is it only promotes it to your community, if that makes sense. If you want to go beyond that, you can reach more people as well, but I think it's just easier through TikTok to reach more people.
I think it's changed, isn't it? Because I know before, like when I was running ads and stuff, Facebook and Instagram was very intertwined anyways.
Yeah.
It still is very much so. But it's so much changes.
A lot of
So much changes. You have to
Otherwise you get
adapt.
left
Yeah.
behind.
That's the thing. Yeah. So I'm catching up. I'm coming up.
Yes, you got this.
And lastly, do you prefer to be happy or sad?
Oh, I prefer to be happy.
Happy.
Yeah. I prefer to be happy.
Happiness
Do you know
always.
what? I do prefer to be happy. But I think there's also a lot of learning from being sad. Yeah. So I think sometimes what tends to happen is, do you know when you're feeling sad?
Yeah.
It's not a nice feeling. You feel low, you feel unenergized. You start thinking things that you don't even need to think, or there's just lots of things going on.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of learning in your sadness, and sadness is an emotion that it's trying to tell you something. Typically for me, I've noticed, because I've done like the inner work and I'm still doing the inner work and things like that. So for me, I noticed that when I'm sad, it means that there's something missing. So it's almost a little bit like a radar for me. When I feel particular emotions, it almost triggers me to think, okay, let me listen to my body. Let me listen to what's happening here so that I can do what's needed to put things in place. So if I'm feeling sad, it means that for me there's something missing. So it might mean that I need to do some exercise. I need to move my body. It might mean that I need to speak to the people around me, my support system. I might need to listen to gospel music because there's the affirmations in there, the musical element in there as well. So I guess with that being said, I've sort of got a plan in mind when I'm feeling different types of emotions. So as much as I do, who doesn't like to feel happy?
Yeah, of course.
I do like to feel happy, but there's also learning in other emotions as well.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. And I think that when you experience that sadness, it's very good to tap into your coping mechanism as well.
Yeah.
From like what you've described too. So yeah, and obviously it's great to be happy, but also to recognize why you're sad.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be sad as well. That's very important.
Yeah. And without the sad moments, how are you going to appreciate the happy moments?
That's true. Because it's knowing the difference, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think also to add to that, sometimes happiness is looked at in a what's the best way to put it? I feel like sometimes people look at happiness as this big thing of being ecstatic.
Yes.
People misinterpret the word happiness for being ecstatic. And for me, I don't believe that we can be ecstatic all the time. For me, happiness is more about contentment.
Yes.
So I could be happy, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be like
bubbling and buzzing
and jumping
and
up and down and doing all of that. I think my happiness is more being content with what I have in the moment that I'm in right now. So right now, I am happy because I've got my health.
Of course.
I've got my mind.
Yes.
I've got people around me. I've got a support system. I've got a roof over my head. And that for me is contentment. And contentment for me is happiness.
Do you think well-being contributes towards happiness as well?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Because when you're looking after yourself, you're topping yourself up. I've got this saying of looking after or topping up your well-being bank account. And for that, it essentially means that you've been able to do the things that re-energize you, does allow you to be in a position where you can do the things that you want to do. You know, if you're not topped up, if your battery, let's say your phone battery is low, what you're going to do, you're going to plug it in and charge it, so then you can use it to make a call, you can use it to go on online banking, you can use it to go on Instagram. For you to be able to function, that's the same way that taking time out to look after yourself is fundamental.
Yeah. And I know, just drawing on like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where your fundamental and essential needs to be met. I think well-being should also be there as well, because ultimately I think it's something we underestimate, don't we?
It is. Yeah, it definitely is something that we underestimate. And I think it's definitely something that we need to take more seriously from my perspective. Because sometimes when, you know, we're living in London, this part of the world, everyone's busy.
Yeah.
Everyone's going up and down. It's, as we call it, the rat race.
Yeah, it's every man for themselves attitude.
Yeah. And so that's only going to get you so far. And that's why we see a lot of burnout. Even, you know, as a therapist, I see that a lot of people are burnt out.
Yeah.
Because they're not taking time out to pause and to rest and to rejuvenate. And so people look at doing that as a waste of time. But if you think about it, if you were to, let's say if you go on a 6-month stretch and then you burn out and then you have to take another 3 months off, that's taking up more time than if you said, okay, let me just implement small things, you know, maybe 30 minutes here and there as you are going along. That stretch will last much longer.
Definitely, because the recovery is a lot longer.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of your time to take a large chunk out. Cool. Thank you for that. So we're going to move on to moments of truths.
Okay.
Which is, have you ever questioned?
Okay.
So some of which we've kind of touched on anyways. First one is, have you ever cried in public?
In public? Yeah, I have. Yeah. I'm a crybaby.
Oh, are you?
I am.
Happy crybaby?
Both. Like, cried in public. I cried at my awards ceremony.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, actually, I saw
I cried.
That's tears of joy, it seems like.
It was tears of joy. And I think what made me cry in particular was essentially, do you know, with the award ceremony, like I said before, I'm a organizer. I like doing events. I like bringing people together. So for me, that's what it was all about, celebrating people and bringing people together and recognizing people's achievements, because people work so hard. They work so hard, especially in the field of mental health and well-being, but they're not recognized. So I just wanted people to have a good time. Let's eat, let's drink, let's dance, let's have a good time. And then I don't think I realized the impact that it was going to have on people. So I remember there was a lady that won an award. She shared this publicly, so I'm okay to share it. She came to me afterwards, and then she moved her top out the way and showed me her chest. On her chest there was a big scar, and that scar was from heart surgery that she had. I think a few weeks or a month or so before, she had open heart surgery, and she'd also gone through a few bereavements as well. And this was the first time that she had actually come out her house since the surgery and since the bereavement. And she was like to me, Vanessa, I don't think you understand how much this means to me. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know what was going on in her life. I didn't realize the impact that it would have. She was crying. Me too. I was also crying with her. We just held onto her hand. I was just, it was a moment, and I'll never forget that. I'll never forget. Yeah, it was such a beautiful moment. Because you never know what people are going through.
You never know.
And so that small act, in my eyes, what was a small act of kindness or something that's just bringing people together, really resonated with her and did something for her. And I think that's just one story out of the many stories that I've heard or people have told me about how much it actually meant to them. So, yeah.
And, with it being in the mental health field, we always hear about kindness and how far kindness goes a long way. And clearly that's an example of how you exercise that actively. So you even do it on an individual level, but also on a professional level and on a on a
Yeah.
community level too.
We try. It's not always easy. But
It's not try. You're doing it.
We're doing as much
You're
as we
doing
can.
it. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're doing
We're
it.
doing
You're
as much as we
absolutely
can.
doing it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. I can't sit here and say that I'm doing everything that I want to do, but within my capacity, I am doing what I can.
Because you've touched on something too. You've advised that you like to celebrate people's achievements. So how do you celebrate? Do you have time to celebrate your own
100%.
achievements?
Yeah, I enjoy myself, man. I enjoy myself. Yeah, I do take time to reflect. I think it took me a while to get here because I had, again, I'm recovering. I was recovering from what I'll describe as overachieving addiction.
Okay.
Yeah, being that I achieve one thing, okay, what's next? I achieve one thing, okay, what's next? And I think that stemmed from the way that I grew up. So essentially, I was that girl in school that did really well. Even though I was a bit of a chatterbox, like to talk a little bit in class, but I still did really well. Primary school did really well. Secondary school did really, really well. College, I got a little bit distracted, so didn't do so well. I did okay. I did good, but not as well as I wanted to.
Okay.
Uni, got a first class. So the trajectory was always, and in school, I think they put me in gifted and talented. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they had like gifted and talented and things like that. So it was almost like, okay, I've done this now, what's next? I've done this now, what's next? I've done this now, what's next? And that happened until I burnt out. And so it's not until something like that happens where you realize, okay, Vanessa, you need to slow down. You need to really recognize what your achievements are. And especially for me, as someone who is a high performer, it's important for me to actually pause and be like, okay, let's celebrate the small wins. Because you can work. But again, God forbid, if you're not here tomorrow, what was the point in all of that? Do you know what I mean? So I believe in balance. I think sometimes balance gets a little bit of negative connotation, especially from people who work hard, because they feel like they have to sacrifice their money or sacrifice their growth or sacrifice their development for well-being. But I don't believe that. I believe that you can look after yourself and also grow personally, grow your business, make money, etc. So yeah, I enjoy myself. I go on holiday quite regularly. Even in August, I took the whole month off.
Oh, lovely.
Went to Dubai, went to Bali. I like experiencing different things. I like being in new environments, because when you're in a new environment, you're forced to be present.
Yes.
And so that does help to take my mind off things. I go to the gym regularly as well. I've turned into a bit of a gym babe. I love it. I love it for me.
We love it for you too. So it seems like you're actively practicing self-care, which is amazing.
Yeah, I have to practice what I preach. How can I sit there and tell my clients, look after yourself, top up your well-being, if they don't see me doing it too?
Yeah. So no, that's amazing. It's good to practice what you preach. Absolutely. And lastly, have you ever experienced any racism?
I have.
You have?
Yeah, I have. There's a couple of examples that come to mind. I guess I'll give an example that's more related to career-wise anyway.
Okay.
So I remember when I was training, when I was doing my initial training to become a wellbeing practitioner, I worked in a service that wasn't in London. This was a service in Oxford.
Okay.
And I remember this is the first time I ever experienced something like this. So it was like, oh, okay, this is really interesting, especially because where I grew up in Newham.
Okay.
And Newham is very multicultural.
Yes.
So even in my class, Black people were the majority.
Okay.
So going from that to uni, where I guess the diversity is not there as much, and then going into the working world, again, diversity is not there as much, and then going into my therapy training, again, there was two of us. There was two Black girls in the office, or in the service, actually. Yeah, there was only two Black girls in the service, yeah. But back to the story. So I remember there was one time where we started working with patients, and I remember sitting there waiting for my patient to come. I'd prepped, done all the reading. I was quite nervous, but at the same time, I was excited to get, a new patient because we were still training and still figuring things out. And then the patient got here. So, you get that call from reception saying that your patient is here. So you go and get them and they come in. And the way that they were looking at me was like, oh, it felt really, the energy just felt really off. And they said to me, oh, where's my therapist? Is the real therapist coming in? It's like, I'm going to be your therapist. And then in the end, they're basically like, nah, they don't want me to be their therapist. They want someone that looks like them to be their therapist. And it was quite like, oof, because
it's like a slap in the face, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially, it felt like a bit of a slap in the face because, I'd prepped so much for this. I knew what I was doing. I was really excited about this. And then for someone to actually say that, you know what, you're not good enough, because that's what it was implying. You're not good enough to help me, or you're not good enough to give me the support. And they wanted basically someone who was white. They didn't feel like I was trained enough to be able to support them. And do you know what? Fair enough. On reflection, it's okay to want a therapist that looks like you. But I think it was the way that it was said to me at that time that was quite rude.
Of course.
And I was really taken aback by that. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a therapist that looks like you, but to assume that someone is not competent enough because of their skin color or because they may not necessarily look like you. I think there's a way that you say it.
Yeah, no,
and
definitely.
For that person, I knew it was coming from a place of, you're black. How can you support me?
Because you always know that the intent, isn't it? And when they're being condescending,
and
when they're being, when they're patronizing you.
Exactly.
So it's very unfortunate, and it happens a lot. And I don't know, from speaking to some of my colleagues that are therapists as well and friends, I could see that I think within the psychology therapy world, there's not that much representation, or
there hasn't been.
Coming.
It's changing.
It's changing. But I know that a lot of the stories that they hear, they have some hardships before they're accepted. So there's usually a lot of barriers that they have to overcome in order for them, like what you've described, for them to have that credibility and for them to be acknowledged and respected too. So it's not always sometimes the service users, it's sometimes it's not always colleagues. Sometimes it's the service users as well. So I know that's very common within social care as well, or health and social care. As a Black social worker as well, I also experience that sometimes too. Within the care field, it's quite common for service users to say, oh, we don't want this person, or you're not qualified. And sometimes, being Black British, it's like because I speak English and I've got the London accent compared to somebody who's got maybe a more direct accent, might have a Caribbean accent or an African accent. So some people, when they're being racist, they would kind of other them, put them in the category of other, and they're like, oh, you're not like them, but we're exactly the same. So it's crazy. I think it's something we need to continue to be advocates for.
100%.
I always advocate for representation. I think that's very important. And even within like the health and social care field, I know that there are a lot of people, a lot of Afro-Caribbean and Asians, and a lot of people who go and study. But sometimes, I have said in the previous podcast, our services don't always reflect that representation. So I think it's very important for the service users that we support that they see that representation too.
Definitely.
Very, very important. And as you know, going into some of the statistics that we'll go into a bit later, or I think you've also touched on in the past, a lot of the services, when the consensus come back, there's always Black people, Black and Asians are predominantly not included, and we're missed. Our needs are often missed because of the lack of representation as well.
No, it's a good point that you've mentioned there. I think representation is important for that, but then also important for people who are coming after us as well. For them to see that it is possible. Because I know when I was initially starting out in my career, there wasn't many people doing what I'm doing now. And so being able to be that person that the generation after can look at and see, do you know what? If Vanessa can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah. And no, I agree. I'm very happy with the next generation, the future generation. I feel like the younger generation are really bold and courageous.
Love them.
There's certain things they take no nonsense.
No
nonsense. Their tolerance is zero. Even something simple like employment, if they're not happy, they will move on.
Yeah, that's it.
Gone are the days they will stay in a place where they're not happy. If they're not happy, they really exercise their well-being, which I love, and their self-care.
They know how to say no.
They do. They absolutely do, which is amazing. We're going to move on to another game, which is called Myths and Truths.
Okay.
As you've advised as well, you are a lovely, well-renowned and respected therapist. So this game is Myths and Truth Therapy Edition. So I'm going to ask some questions, just say some statements about therapy, and then we can discuss if it's a myth or truth. Okay. So the first question is, therapy is only for people who have severe mental health illness.
Oh, that's a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big myth.
It's a massive myth.
Yeah, therapy is something that anyone can access at any time. You do not need to have a mental health problem or issue or difficulty to be able to access therapy. I think therapy itself needs to be destigmatized. Therapy is something that you can use to gain self-awareness. And I believe that self-awareness is your superpower.
100%.
If you know yourself, no one can tell you otherwise. If you know yourself, no one can convince you otherwise. You can go in the direction that you want to go in without being distracted by what the world is telling you or what other people are telling you as well. So it's a way of being able to get that awareness of yourself, your patterns as well, so that you can make the right decisions. For example, in therapy, if you learn that maybe there's a pattern of, let's take relationships, pattern of, going into bad relationships or relationships that are not healthy or relationships that are not good for you. Once you have that understanding, you're more likely to discern when someone comes into your direction and they're not right for you. If you've got that understanding, you can recognize the traits, you can recognize how you respond to things, you can recognize what's good for you. So again, you can go in the direction that you want to. So therapy is a place to build awareness about yourself, which can elevate you in all aspects of your life. It can elevate your relationships, can elevate your career, your personal development. It can also be a place for you to essentially work through things. Life happens. Life is hard sometimes.
It is. It really is.
Being able to actually process some of those difficulties, whether that's processing a transition that you're making, a breakup that you've gone through, a divorce, a bereavement, a trauma, traumas that people experience. So I think therapy is not just for when you're going through a mental health challenge or you've been diagnosed with a mental health difficulty. Therapy is for everyone.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And also it touches on another myth as well, which is when people say therapy is for people who are weak. People who are weak.
Yeah, no, I strongly disagree with that. The reason why I strongly disagree with that is because therapy is hard work. Like, I think a lot of people have this connotation of therapy being roses and flowers where, you come in, you lie down on the couch and you talk about your problems, and then the therapist is just gonna sit there and validate all the bad things that you're doing or just validate your life in a way that's all flowery and things like that. But therapy can be hard. Therapy can be a challenge. Therapy, especially, I guess it depends on the type of therapy that you do, but the type of therapy that I do, I'm there to listen to you. I'm there to encourage you, but I'm also there to challenge you. If we recognize a pattern of behavior that is not healthy for you, we're going to point it out.
That's it. Hold you accountable.
We're going to hold you accountable. And we're going to have a look at how we can work with that. So I think a lot of people may feel that, I can just talk to my friends
Mhm.
and that itself is therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking to your friends can be therapeutic,
Mhm.
but if you want to do real work, then yeah, I think having someone to really hold you accountable, especially to go towards the person that you want to be, because sometimes getting to that goal or that person that you want to be, it takes challenge.
Of course.
So yeah, therapy is not for the weak.
It's not for the weak.
I
Yeah.
would say it's for the people that want to do the work.
Yeah, exactly. And is, having another lens and
Yeah,
working with someone who could see your blind spots, because we all
exactly.
have blind spots.
Exactly.
So, often people don't like to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So that's why, they'll take the easy route. Oh, let me speak to a friend. Let me speak to a family member.
Mm.
Okay, let's lead to the next one. I don't need therapy because my spiritual beliefs is all I need.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, now this is a good one. So I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in God. And what I would say to that is you can have God and you can also have therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I like to look at it is almost like, let's say right now, I had a deep cut, right? I can pray about it and I can pray for God to give me the strength to go through the pain. But there's also the practical things that need to be done as well.
Of course.
I need to go to the hospital to be able to clean that wound so that they can bandage it up or they can, cleanse it, do whatever they need to do to it so that it can heal on a physical level.
Mm-hmm.
If I was to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to pray about it, God is going to give me the strength, God is going to give me the strength. Yeah, God will give you the strength, but you're not doing anything about that cut.
That's it, yeah.
In the long run, you could actually die from it because if it gets infected, if the infection goes to your bloodstream and then that goes to your heart and then boom,
there's no treatment, there's no maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, I think definitely 100% God first. Your spiritual health is important. But then also looking at your psychological health is something that you can do alongside therapy as well. So, for example, I know therapists and practitioners, and even sometimes, depending on who I'm working with as well, some people like to work in a way where they incorporate their spirituality into their therapy. So what can that look like? Maybe it can look like using Bible verses during therapy as well to help you really understand your identity and who you are in Christ.
Yeah.
It can also look like praying in the sessions as well, maybe at the beginning or at the end of the sessions too. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And what about another one? Therapy's too expensive.
This is one. It's an interesting one. I get therapy can be pricey. I get it. And I guess it depends on your pocket. I'm not watching people's pockets. So yeah, that I understand therapy can be pricey. However, therapy is an investment. That's the way that I like to look at it.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's an investment. The same way that if there was a concert coming up, some people will pull out 200, 250 to go to that concert, to have a good time. Yeah, that's good for your well-being. You're topping up your well-being bank account. But I think it's also important to think about your therapy or your personal development in a way where you're looking at it as an investment. It's something that as an investment, can reap lots of different rewards. So yes, it can be expensive, but you were looking at the longer term of it. And there's also a range of different therapists that provide a range of different price points as well. So if, you feel that, I know there's some like community-based organizations that will do means tested therapy. So they might look at how much you earn and then based off how much you earn, they will charge you based on that. So if you really want to,
you'll find a way you'll find a means as well. That's the reality of the situation. Because like the generic NHS route, you can even be referred by your GP, isn't it?
You can be referred by your GP. You can even refer yourself. And that's free therapy as well.
Yeah.
So every sort of borough in London or every city in the UK will have I think they've called it talking therapies.
Oh, yes.
They'll have a talking therapy service. And so if you were to type in your area, so if you type in Brixton talking therapies, their website will come up. If you type in Newham talking therapies, their website will come up and all the details will be
Of
there.
course. But obviously, clearly there's limitations as to what they can cover.
There are.
Yeah.
There are. I guess at the end of the day, everyone's doing what they can with what they have.
Yeah.
So I've worked in those services before.
Okay.
I understand that it can be a bit of a stretch with the limited resources. So yeah, people are doing the best they can with what they have. I think there's more that can be done, but yeah.
And what about my problems ain't serious enough for therapy?
Oh, that makes me feel sad.
Yeah,
it makes me feel sad. I think as you said that, what comes to mind is probably someone who is maybe taking care of other people's problems. They're taking care of other people's problems so much that they don't recognize that their problems are also valid. I think there's no such thing as a small problem. What might be small for me might be big to you. What might be big to you might be small for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm not one to compare problems. If it's, everyone has what I describe as a threshold. Everyone has their own window of tolerance. And so for some people, their window of tolerance might be this small. For some people, their window of tolerance might be this big. And so if it's this small and something happens that fills up their capacity, that's going to feel like their whole life is ending. It's almost like, I remember my niece, she was having a difficult time with her GCSEs, and for her it was a big thing. It's like it's the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? And we have to take that seriously because for her, that's her capacity. That's what it looks like for her. Whereas like, my aunties were like, oh, why is she stressing this small thing? Like, because for them, their capacity is much bigger. They dealt with life. And so this small GCSE thing,
that's her biggest stress at that time.
Exactly. So we need to validate all those challenges.
No, I absolutely agree. And then lastly, a therapist will make me talk about things before I'm ready to.
Not really. Not before you're ready. I think there's a difference between not wanting to talk about your problems because it's hard versus not wanting to talk about your problems because you're avoiding.
Yes.
If you're not wanting to talk about your problems because it's hard, that's a completely different thing. And I believe that a good therapist would perhaps maybe take their time and allow you to warm up to a time where you feel comfortable, because people go through really, really difficult things.
They do.
And so being able to speak about it, actually say it out loud when, for a long time it's been something that's been going on in your mind, it can be really difficult.
It can be,
yeah, it can be really, really difficult. So I think a therapist is not going to force you to talk about it on that respect. The other part of that is, people not wanting to talk about their problems because they're avoiding. I think because I've been doing this for so long, I can sense when someone is avoiding talking about difficult things. And so for me, like I mentioned earlier on, as your therapist, I'm here to also challenge you.
Yeah.
And so there may be aspects where I can see that you're avoiding. You know that you're avoiding. We're looking at each other and we both know that you're avoiding. And so we'll have a look at putting things in place to actually help you, unravel that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's more about prompting, but I will never sit there and say, you have to tell me about this, or why are you not talking about this? I think it's also allowing the person to recognize that they're avoiding.
Yeah.
I think that itself, that awareness would then open up an avenue where, okay, if I actually do want to make changes in my life, I have to do the opposite of avoiding.
Yeah. Which is confronting.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree. And lastly, what are some of the benefits of therapy? I know you've touched on it already, but just to round up and to sum that up.
Yeah. I guess in summary, I would say a big benefit of therapy is you being able to empower yourself. You being able to actually know who you are. And when you know who you are in this world, like I mentioned, no one can take anything away from you. Being able to know yourself gives you an idea of how to navigate in situations in your day-to-day, helps you in relationships, can help you in your career, can help you with your personal development, the way that you interact with others as well. It can help you process through challenging situations, and essentially, overall, for you to be able to create the life that you want to live. I think sometimes we base the life that we want to live on circumstances or things that we go through. I believe that everyone has a particular narrative that they live their lives by. They have a story which they live their lives by. And for lots of people, they're living their lives by their experiences, what they've seen, what they've heard, what they've gone through, what they've seen other people go through. So then that becomes their reality, that becomes their bubble. But the whole idea behind therapy is for you to, number one, recognize that. Number two, be empowered by that understanding. And then number three, be able to put things in place to go the direction that you want to go in. Not the direction that your mum wants you to go in, not the direction that your dad wants to go in, not the direction that your kids want you to go in, or your friend wants you to go in, or your partner wants you to go in, the direction that you essentially want to go in.
It's individualized and it's personalized just for you.
Just for you.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you for that breakdown.
No problem.
Fantastic. Just to add to that as well, there is group therapy as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I know that you deliver some culturally informed sessions and workshops as well, don't you?
Yes,
Can you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, sure. So I guess a big part of our well-being, I believe, is our identity. For me, we can't speak about well-being without speaking about who we are.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because our identity shapes the way that we think about things. It shapes the way that we do things. It shapes the way that we feel. And so being able to actually incorporate that when we're looking at well-being is important. So the way that, for example, maybe someone that has grown up in a Ghanaian household would experience well-being might be completely different to someone that has grown up in a European household. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's being able to actually look at the different aspects of our identity that shape who we are, that then shape our experiences of well-being, and how we look at things like self-care. So even just that basic understanding of self-care, for me, the reason why, as an example, I had that overachieving addiction, I would say. There's so many different reasons, but one of them I would say is because in my household, you have to work hard. If you're not working hard, what are you doing? If you're sleeping on the weekend, my mum will wake you up. Why are you not cleaning the house? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if you're not doing anything,
then you're not being productive.
You're not being productive. And so what are you actually learning with that? You're learning that if I'm not doing something, if I'm not being productive, it means I'm doing something wrong.
That's it. You have to actively make a contribution.
Yeah. And so that relationship that you have with self-care, that's why I had a negative relationship with rest. I was one of those people, I'm not going to rest until I've made $1 million. I'm not going to rest until, But you can't live like that.
Yeah.
So culturally informed, understanding things like that, understand the relationship that you have with self-care, as an example, based on, that cultural lens, does then help you to realize that, oh, okay, that's why I've got a difficult relationship with self-care, because I can sit here and say, here are 10 ways to look after your well-being, 10 ways to look after your health. You can go away and try them, but then it's not personalized to your experience. It's not personalized to your identity and your culture and who you are. And so that's only going to be short-lived. So yeah, that's some of the things that we look at. We look at topics like intersectionality, which incorporates not just culture from the lens of ethnicity and race. We also look at your identity in a holistic way. So looking at any disabilities, looking at being able-bodied. What else do we look at? We look at socioeconomic background. All of these things do contribute towards who you are. And these are the sort of like things that we'll incorporate when we're looking at stress management, looking at imposter syndrome, looking at racial trauma, and all these different topics.
100%. I was going to touch on that as well. Even with racial trauma and cultural trauma as well. I think that's an amazing workshop and facility that you did. Was it this year or was it last year? I don't remember exactly when it was.
Probably would have
was
been
it an ongoing thing?
It probably would have been last year that we did the racial trauma stuff. Yeah.
So when I saw that, and I think the time was so timely, it was needed at that time. I don't remember what was happening exactly at the time, but the need and the demand.
We did one this year as well, actually. After the racist riots.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I love how you do things in real time to support the community as well, which adds to your excellence and a lot of the amazing things that you do within the community. And you continue to be a voice to the voiceless as well. And especially because you've got mental health expertise and skilled area of interest is really, really important to continue to feed the community like you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
you're being so kind to me today.
Honestly, I feel like I have to be kind because like we always see you giving back. It just goes back to our first break the ice question where you're a giver. So you definitely deserve your flowers and your roses and your prompts as well. So on behalf of everyone, I'm sure you've had a lot of standing ovation and stuff like that anyways. But
bless you.
It's just amazing to see, advocates. I feel fired up and empowered by you just being here, start of the new year, and I know that you're going to touch on more amazing things too. So I'm just excited to cheer you on and
thank you.
To see a lot of the amazing things that you'll continue to do in the community.
Thank you so much. Big up you as well. It's not easy, you know, doing all of this. So we really appreciate you, appreciate your hard work, appreciate your efforts and everything that you're doing. It's not in vain, trust me, I promise you, it's not in vain. It might feel like that sometimes, but you got this, girl.
Yeah, no, thank
you. We appreciate you.
Here. And this is it. So this is part of Bespoke Minds community. We like to have informative and interactive conversations about mental health, self-care and healing. We want to build a community of networks, professionals and people just to help to break the silence and also to be a voice for the voiceless and to motivate and encourage people to come and partake and share their stories too. So we're just going to do a care to share. So it's a did you know? So did you know that around 3.8 million people were in contact with NHS, mental health and learning disabilities and autism service over the last year, which is almost up to 2/5 compared to before the pandemic.
Okay.
So that's new information that's come out from NHS England from October 2024.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
Have you seen an increase in terms of like the mental health needs in general? So working on the front line, being in service, even with your partners as well.
Yeah.
Have you seen an increase in a demand for mental health awareness?
I think services? So. I think over the years, I feel like there definitely has been an increase just in terms of the people who are accessing support. So I'm not sure if there's an increase because there's an increase in mental health problems. I think there's an increase more because we are speaking about it more.
Yes.
So maybe things that people may not have typically, gone for support for. Maybe now they are going for support for. And of course, with social media as well, I feel that there's more of a awareness of mental health. But then the flip side of that is that there's a lot of misinformation that's shared where people maybe looking at everyday symptoms and pathologizing it. So in the sense where maybe there's so for example, there's a lot of misinformation that's shared, which I call pop psychology.
Okay.
Yeah, where pop psychology might say something like, if someone is mean to you, it means they're a narcissist.
we hear that word ringing
Yeah.
around, flying around a lot, don't we?
But if someone is mean to you, it doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. They're just a mean person. Do you know what I mean? So it's stuff like that. Or I think, there's been an increase in people talking about things like ADHD.
Yes.
Yeah. And so someone might post, okay, here are some symptoms of ADHD. Maybe one of them is finding it difficult to concentrate. But finding it difficult to concentrate doesn't necessarily mean that there's a direct correlation between that and ADHD, as an example. There's a whole criteria behind it. But someone might see that and think, oh no, I'm having difficulty concentrating. It means that I need to get therapy.
Yeah.
And I need to get support for ADHD, or I need to go and get medication. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done around having correct information and sharing correct information as well.
Yeah, I know that's very important. And I completely agree. And like you said, we're living in a world where, the social media world where, we've got so much access to things, but we need to ensure that we have access to the correct things and the correct information as well. In terms of like the statistics, I think working in mental health services and working in the front line, I have seen a significant increase and the demand since COVID, especially first time presentation. And there's been a significant increase with depression and anxiety. A lot of people are their first presentation. Lots of GP referrals are coming with depression and anxiety. But when you dive deeper, when we do the mental health assessment and we gather their holistic needs, then we recognize that there's so much more. For many people actually, there's like life before COVID and life after COVID. It's like it's become two separate things, although it's an individual's life, but it's like there's two parts to it as well. So it's very interesting. I think we've known this for some time, working on the front line. So I think now it's finally for us getting that validation that it's something that we've known has happened. So now that the statistics have come out, hopefully we can have more resources, because at the moment, within a lot of councils, a lot of local authorities, and within the NHS, we don't have a lot of resources to support the demand and the needs of people that are there. So we can only hope for the best, really.
Yeah. No, it's a difficult time. There's lots of things going on in the world.
There is. Last year, they said that, I don't know if you saw, I think it was actually in the Shade Ballroom or somewhere. They said that London was the most, was it the UK, was the most depressive city.
That I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
It's all in the air.
You
can definitely feel it. I think now it's the most intense it's been, I would say.
Yeah, the economy is tough. Relationships are tough. Career can be tough. Resources. So
it's ruthless. The streets are.
The weather is not helping. At least if there's, challenges and the weather is nice, maybe that will encourage people a little bit. But
of course, we'll just wait until summer. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we even get a summer. Yeah. And lastly, like, what advice would you give to yourself and others? Like, for instance, first question is, looking back at your younger self, what would you tell yourself?
Well, that's my younger self. How young are we going?
As young as you want to go. As back as you would like to.
What I would say to my younger self is face your fronts. No, I'm joking. What I would say is keep going. And everything is happening for a reason. Divine timing is a thing. Divine intervention is a thing. And just because things don't go according to plan, that is okay. That rejection is a redirection and is only taking you on the path that you need to be. So you just have to trust yourself, trust your gut, listen to your gut feeling, and things will happen the way that it needs to be. It might not necessarily happen the way that you want it to be, but it will happen the way that it needs to be. So just keep going.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to somebody who is currently going through maybe a turbulence, or they don't know what to do with themselves and they're procrastinating, or, you know, even questioning whether they should have therapy or invest in themselves in order for them to move forward?
Okay. What I would say is take time to actually find out your why. What is important to you? So even if it's a case of doing a practical activity with writing down what is it that's important to you. A way that I do that with the people that I work with sometimes is give a scenario. So let's say, I can do it with you actually.
Okay.
So, so I want you to imagine it's coming up to your 70th birthday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So your 70th birthday, you're looking forward to this day because it's a celebration of you, and it's a celebration of your life. It's a celebration of all the things that you've been through, and you have really important people, the people that you want to be there. So these can be people that you already know, or it can be people that you don't know right now. But these are people that you want to be there on your 70th birthday. Okay, can you picture that?
Wow. Yes, I can now, you know.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing that comes to my mind is, by the grace of God, if I will make it there. And I would definitely love to have like my friends, my family, good health, and peace and success and a solid mind as well.
Yeah. And it's great that you can picture that. And so want you to think of one person. Yeah. So one person who you think will give a speech.
Oh, definitely my daughter.
Your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thinking about things from your daughter's perspective, at that point in time, remember now you're 70, what would you actually want your daughter to say about you?
Oh, wow. I think the first one is obviously being the best mother.
Okay.
And then probably being the best provider and example, and hopefully at that age leaving a legacy behind, like what we were talking about before. And ultimately, if I'm blessed with grandchildren or great grandchildren, that would be part of it. So for me, that would be my dream. That would be amazing. I will be richly blessed should that happen by God's grace. Yeah.
So family is important to you.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. And I can hear, of course, your daughter is important to you. Legacy is important to you as well. So from that short activity that we did, like typically I might go into a bit more depth with that, but even just from the 2 minutes that we spent on that, we've been able to identify what's important to you. And those are the things that you need to focus on, especially because your daily routine, the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, makes up your future. You know, there's a saying that your future is based on your daily routine. So if these are things that are important to you, and you're not looking at investing in that or doing something about that in your day-to-day life, you're doing something wrong. So back to the question that you asked, is about identifying your why. And if you know that this is the end goal that you want to achieve, and that's the purpose that you want to live your life by, and you want to be this person, and you've identified those things, it means that you need to align yourself with those things on a regular basis, so that at the end of the day you can leave this world, because we're all gonna go. That's the honest truth of it. Without we're all gonna go at some point. So that you can leave this world feeling fulfilled. So if you're going through a difficult time, think about how you can cultivate that sense of achievement. What do you want to achieve? Know what you want to achieve, and then take the steps. It can be hard, but it's possible to actually take the steps towards that by finding the right support system.
Yeah, and keeping that vision in your mind as well.
Keeping that vision in your mind at all times. And essentially, I did that activity to myself, and that's why I am the way that I am.
Well, no, and I've just done the activity now, and it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It's very powerful and it's very amazing. But yeah, no, thank you for coming.
Thank you for
coming
having
today.
me.
It's been amazing.
Thank you.
So, where can we find you?
Sure.
And, you know, can you tell us about any amazing upcoming events? Because I know you have plenty.
So
and I know
many.
I'll be sharing it anyways. We'll be sharing it here on the Bespoke Minds podcast.
Love that. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. So you can find me. I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram. It's Vanessa Boachie _ I'm also on LinkedIn, Vanessa Boachie. You can email me, vanessa@insideoutwellbeing.org, to find out about our events and things that we have coming up. 2025 is going to be an active year. We've got different programs that we're launching. We've got different events. We may have the award ceremony coming up as well. So that's
what we like to hear.
That's in the pipeline. So I'm really, really excited to see what's to come. And if you know, yourself, you're looking for a therapist, feel free to holler at me. If you're looking for a high performance coach, that's something that I do too. Feel free to get in touch. Or if your company or your organization is looking for well-being support for their staff, then please do get in touch as well.
Yeah, no, that's been amazing. And we'll include all the details and descriptions for your use down below. But yeah, thank you once again for coming.
Thanks for having me.
No, you're most welcome.
Well done.
And that's it for today. We've come to the end of our segment today. I hope you've enjoyed the lovely conversation we've had with Vanessa and taken a lot of the gems that she's dropped about therapy, mental health and well-being. Can stay blessed within this new year of 2025. The best is yet to come. Take care and we'll see you soon.
And I even learned a lot from why it kind of broke down, and I understand now. So I would say that it definitely did help me in that sense, but it did make me also realize that people need to be careful when they throw the word around love, because sometimes it can just be infatuation. You understand? That I've come across, like, especially from talking about your parents, you actually start to understand the definition of love. Obviously, it's different when you're talking about the relationship term, but you start to realize that love is not just conditional.